What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this second exclusive segment from the greatest podcast on the turf. I'm Ryan.
I'm Anthony again.
And for this episode, we're going to be doing our breakouts and busts coming into the fantasy football season. Got a few guys that you've probably heard of a lot. A few you might not have. So, let's get into it.
Leave it at that. Enough said. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you're new. You guys have been killing it. We've been consistently seeing growth in our likes, our views, and our subscribers. Keep killing it. Keep showing us love. This week for the podcast, we wrapped up our NBA content for the year. We did pretty much just NBA Finals recap real quick. We talked about, and then for the primary topic, we discussed where we think some of the top names are going to go after this year. There's some talk around the guys like Brad Beal, Dame Lillard, all that. Then we talked about some big NBA free agents could be on the move, Chris Paul, Kawhi. If you want our full thoughts, where we think they're going to go, some predictions on that, link in the description below. Also for the podcast, you guys know we're big Oklahoma guys, Boomer Sooner. Like how you know where I was going with that one. We discussed all the conference changes in college football, like our boys Oklahoma about to go run the SEC. Texas is going to be bottom feeders with like Mizzou.
Texas A&M.
A&M's ducking Texas. But if you want our full thoughts on that, link to the podcast in the description. Don't forget also, you guys have been loving the mock draft, so we did another one. Me and Ryan, we did a 12-team PPR mock draft. We drafted the same team. Wasn't as long as our other ones. Argued about some of the guys, but most of the time, like I said, we came to a consensus agreement because we're the two best at what we do. What we say is right. So, the two guys, it would be like LeBron and Michael Jordan played together. It's just like
Can't
they
be
were
beaten.
Exactly. But yeah, on that note, don't forget to check out our sponsor, Little Italy. Let us record here every week. Dining room is now open. Come in. I work in here on Thursdays. I'll wait your table. I'll get you some beer if you're 21 over. I'll get you soda. I'll make your food if you want me to. You can have an autograph. Yeah, pretty much. That sums it up. Best cheesesteaks and best pizza in town. We're the best at what we do. I'm the best at what I do. Ryan can attest. So on that note, did I miss anything?
I think we're all good.
Like and subscribe. One more time, just keep liking.
Getting
keep
close to
subscribing.
200.
200. So I know we keep talking about it. Once we hit 200 subscribers, we're giving away an NBA jersey. Thought that was just a chair. We're giving away one NBA jersey and 3 random NFL jerseys. We're gonna pick them. We have ideas in our head. We've been kind of thinking like who people would like. That giveaway will be open to anyone. If you win it and we have a lot of Chicago fans. If you're from Chicago and you win a giveaway, we'll ship you your free jersey that you won. So it'll be
your free Aaron Rodgers jersey.
Yep. It's like, nah, just kidding. We'll decide the jerseys officially when we hit 200 subscribers. And on that note, let's get into our breakouts and busts. I'll take this one to start. My first breakout candidate for this year, I'm just going to start out with it because I kind of touched on it last video. Number 1, Jerry Jeudy. I think Jerry Jeudy is poised for a monster year. You got Cortland Sutton, who's there on paper. He's the receiver one, coming back from a torn ACL very early in last season. My contacts are bugging out. Hold on. Coming off a torn ACL early in the season last year. Jerry Jeudy, we saw when Cortland Sutton went down, Jerry Jeudy kind of worked his way up the depth chart, stepped in. They took him in the first round. He got a lot of love from Drew Lock. He got a lot of targets. He did struggle with drops. You watch his highlights, he had a lot of dropped issues. But that, it's nerves. You're a rookie. That's something that can be corrected in a full year off and full training camp. So I'm sure that they discussed that and they corrected that. He got a lot of targets. He got a lot of love. I'm pretty sure he was in he had a lot of targets. I don't know if it was like 100, but he had a lot of targets last year. Caught some touchdowns. As the season went on, they got him more involved. He played on the outside some, but he also can play on the side. He's one of the best young route runners in the league. And with their quarterbacks, Drew Lock, we know Drew Lock has a cannon. He can get the ball downfield. Jerry Jeudy's that deep threat. He can get you on a double move route. He'll beat you on a deep route. Drew Lock gets some love. And if Drew Lock is sorry and Teddy Bridgewater comes in, Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have as strong an arm as Drew Lock. But last year in Carolina, Teddy Bridgewater, he had 2 deep threat receivers, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, who both had monster years last year. So, either way, I think Jerry Jeudy could be in for a big year here. He's their receiver 2, but by the end of the season, I could see him being their bona fide receiver 1.
Yeah, I could see all those things happening. Jerry Jeudy is a young, up-and-coming star in the league. So I'll just go ahead and jump into my first breakout. I'm going to go in order of my confidence level in the breakout. I'm going to start with low confidence, and that's Jamar Chase. I think the Cincinnati Bengals is going to have one breakout on this team, and it's either going to be Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. Jamar Chase is the most talented receiver on the team. He was drafted 5th overall. Joe Burrow convinced, Cincinnati that
they
he
wanted
Jamar Chase
or Rashawn Slater, but go get my boy from college.
Exactly. I mean, Joe Burrow was throwing him touchdown passes. We know Jamar Chase is talented, so there is definitely potential there where Jamar Chase is a top 15 receiver in the league based on where he was drafted, the capital that they put in him, his relationship with Joe Burrow, and I think they're going to pass the ball a lot. They can be an explosive offense. You got a ton of skilled players there. The other player I'd like to touch on is T. Higgins. I think one of these guys is going to break out. Won't be both of them. I don't see that offense providing that much support for 2 players, but T. Higgins was there last year. He did great things. And that's what kind of worries me about Jamar Chase a little bit is T. Higgins was already there. But I think one of these 2 guys will break out, and I'm willing to take a shot on both of them, at least one of them, in the mid rounds just to see what happens.
This is a tough one for me because we saw last year Cincinnati did have 2 stud receivers, Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, who came to the scene. But granted, Joe Mixon missed pretty much the whole season. I think he played in 6 games.
AJ Green also had 100 targets.
That's true. So. Their offensive line is it's different from last year. It's probably not much better, but it's different. So, this goes back to what we kind of talked about on the podcast last week when we talked about our receiver rankings. Head coach Zach Taylor, I think that's his name, he said Joe Mixon is in for 80% to see 80% of the snaps this year. Joe Mixon, if he's seeing 80% of the snaps, he's going to get a lot of love too, which I think definitely takes away from both of your receivers, like both of them guys breaking out, like you said. Me personally, I'm more of a T. Higgins guy. T. Higgins, in my opinion, was arguably the best receiver in last year's draft class. Should have been a first-round pick, but he hurt his foot and he didn't come out of the combine. But I see what you're saying about Jamar Chase. I would lean more towards T. Higgins, honestly, but I don't think, Jamar Chase, it's not that much difference, and it was his boy in college, so.
Yeah, I think one of these receivers could be top 10, and then both of them you could probably start. So
yeah,
that's where I am. With Breakout, I think both of these guys could see a top 10 type of ceiling. Jamar Chase, I think, is more likely, but I could see it happening on both sides.
If Joe Burrow gets protection, I think Cincinnati's going to come out of the gates trying to set the tone with a Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase 75-yard touchdown pass on the first play of the game.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with the pick, or I agree with your choice anyway. But I'm going to move on to my second guy, Robert Woods. Now, Robert Woods, you can argue he can't be discussed as a breakout because he consistently does good in fantasy. But I think this year he's going to be great in fantasy. I think that he is going to see a lot of targets from Matthew Stafford. He's going to be playing, again, he can play in the slot. They get him involved a lot on the jet sweeps and the touch passes. They like to get him going in that. Matt Stafford, he's a better quarterback than Jared Goff. I think that their offense is going to be a lot more dynamic this year, and I think that Robert Woods is going to get a lot more love now that Cam Akers is gone, so I don't think they're going to be as adamant to get going on the running game. Darrell Henderson, sure, he's good, but I think Robert Woods, he's a huge part in that offense. He got a new contract a couple of years ago or last year for a reason. They use him. Sean McVay loves him. I think him and Matt Stafford are going to click. Robert Woods, he's a guy who I didn't know personally last year because I was a casual. Ryan told me about him. He gets a lot of love. He's consistently 1,000 total yard guy in fantasy. I think that Matt Stafford is going to set him over the edge. I think Robert Woods could be looking at least 1,000, even 1,200 yards, and maybe even double-digit touchdowns. I think that's a ceiling. I think that him and Matt Stafford are going to be real good together this year. So, I think Robert Woods is in for a potential top 10 fantasy finish this year.
Yeah, every year Robert Woods gets, kind of disrespected in the fantasy football world. He usually gets drafted around the 20th best wide receiver and usually finishes in the teens. Robert Woods is a consistent guy, consistent, pass catcher. I don't think the touchdowns were there last year, and that might have hurt him a little bit, but Robert Woods is a stud, and you can't go wrong with him.
I think him and Matt Stafford are going to really, really click. Matt Stafford, he loved his guys. He loved his Marvin Jones, and he loved his Kenny Galladay. Who
Matt Stafford, I know stop talking. I hate Matt Stafford.
I know. I'm just saying, Robert Woods, I think him and Matt Stafford are going to click, so that's why I have him in a breakout year. I think he could be in for a monster year.
I could see it, so I'll just go ahead and jump to my next breakout. Like I said, in terms of confidence, I'm going with CeeDee Lamb. Dallas Cowboys offense is going to be one of the best offenses in the league, just because of how bad the defense is, and just because of how much they're going to. Just the talent on the team in general. You got Ezekiel Elliott, you got Amari Cooper, you got CeeDee Lamb, you got Michael Gallup. Those 4 guys are going to get you offense. The only really concern with me with CeeDee Lamb is, you got 2 other very capable receivers on the other side of him. You got Amari Cooper, you got Michael Gallup. I understand that, but I also think CeeDee Lamb could potentially be Dak Prescott's favorite target. I'm not saying he's the best receiver on the team, but I think he can be the favorite target just because he can do everything. He can be an inside guy, he can be an outside guy. Amari Cooper's banged up right now. He's on the PUP list. It's not a big deal. It doesn't mean he's going to miss 6 weeks of the season. That happens later. But right now, CeeDee Lamb's building up a relationship with Dak Prescott. You see, crazy catches of CeeDee Lamb. And I know you can't buy into that stuff, but I do think that CeeDee Lamb is going to build up a relationship with Dak Prescott. And him being the number 2 receiver on the Dallas Cowboys is even better. Just because, I don't know if we play the Rams this year, but Jalen Ramsey's going to be on Amari Cooper. The number 1 corner is going to be on Amari Cooper.
Gilmore is going to be on Amari Cooper week 5 or week 5.
There you go. CeeDee Lamb is going to be either in a slot or outside. They're going to be able to move him around to where the best corner, even the second best corner, might not be on CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
And I think that, he'll get a lot of targets that way. I think he'll score a lot of touchdowns that way, especially in the red zone. Kind of find that spot and get open. The tight ends aren't the greatest in Dallas, so give me CeeDee Lamb as a breakout candidate. I think he can definitely be around the top 10 range. Maybe
Absolutely.
Not in it, but I would say around it.
I think he'll finish better than Amari Cooper this year.
I could see that.
But no, I love the CeeDee Lamb. I love him for a breakout this year. He's in a Jerry Jeudy and like Jamar Chase kind of situation mix. He's the pretty much the receiver 2 on the team, like Jerry Jeudy. He's going to line up in a side and outside, and I think he's going to get a lot of love from whoever the quarterback is. And I say the Jamar Chase thing because, like you said, there could be a lot of mouths to feed. You have 3 stud receivers and a top 6 running back. But I don't know. I like him for a breakout. I definitely can see it. I'm on the CeeDee Lamb hype train this year. Boomer Sooner, you already know. But yeah, I'm moving on to my final guy. I know you don't like this one, not only because of his team, but just because you're not a fan of him. DAndre Swift.
I'm a fan of him. I'm a fan of the talent. It's just I'll never draft the Lions running back again.
I feel as though that DAndre Swift could be in for a monster year. He finished as, I think, running back 18 last year in fantasy football, and he was splitting carries with Kerryon Johnson and Adrian Peterson, and he still finished as running back 18. Their new head coach, I can't forget his name, Dan Campbell. I think their head coach, Dan Campbell, he's set in stone on coming in, pounding the rock. They got Penei Sewell, their offensive line. They got Frank Ragnow.
They have one of the best offensive lines in.
They have a really, and that's surprising coming from Detroit. Who would have thought the Lions would have one of the best offensive lines in football? They do. They got Penei Sewell in the draft as well, and that's who they were set on. You saw how happy they were when he fell to them at 7. I think they had their pick.
Yeah, they were jumping up and down.
They were hugging each other, cheering like they just won a Super Bowl. But DAndre Swift, I think Dan Campbell's going to want to come out and set the tone to pound the rock off rip. I mean, you look at their depth chart. Jared Goff's their quarterback. Their receiver room, they don't have a receiver one. They got Tyrell Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I think is going to be in a huge year this year as well. But I think he's going to want to come out and pound the rock. They got rid of Kerryon Johnson. They didn't bring back Adrian Peterson. Sure, they bought in Jamal Williams, but I don't think that takes away from DAndre Swift's touches that much. I mean, unless he just comes out and sucks. But, I mean, even when Jamal Williams was back up in Green Bay, he didn't take away from many of Aaron Jones' touches. I don't think. But, I mean, DAndre Swift, he's going to be in for a big year. I think their head coach, Dan Campbell, is going to come out, set the tone, pound the ball behind their top offensive line, and what better than your second-year running back, DAndre Swift?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple things. Like, Aaron Jones only had about 200 rushing attempts last year. That's not a lot. I think Jamal Williams, they'll feed the ball to him because I'm not sure DAndre Swift has the frame to be a, 3-down back in the league. But, Yeah, I mean, I like the player in DAndre Swift. I just don't like the situation. I'm not sure you can tell me the last time the Detroit Lions have supported a 1,000-yard rusher. I'm not sure if you can tell me a time that they did. Exactly. That's a problem. But no, I like the player in DAndre Swift, and I can see a breakout potential. Not going to argue it a lot. He's not going to be on my team most likely, but I see the vision.
He is on one of my teams.
Anyways, I'll go to my last guy, my most confident guy to be a breakout, and that's Najee Harris. I've talked about him a lot lately. I know he's upset about this, but Najee Harris is going to get the ball a ton. I think he's going to see 300 touches this year. And when you see that, you're going to be a top, 15 running back easily. I think Najee Harris, top 10, is in the realm of his possibilities. I think he can easily get that. When you draft a running back in the first round, you're not going to argue talent. The talent's there. He's on the Pittsburgh Steelers offense where it's really just the O-line's the problem. You got a veteran quarterback in Big Ben. He's going to figure things out and get the best people the ball. You got stud receivers that could spread the offense out a little bit. The offensive line's really the only problem, and I think that they'll kind of figure it out because the Steelers, they've always been known to have a pretty decent O-line. I know that some of the pieces fell off, but it usually works out for them, and I think that they'll make it happen enough to where Najee Harris in 300 touches can be a top, 15 running back, and I think it's pretty safe to say so.
I think I see what you're saying, and I agree that he's going to get a lot of touches, and I can see why his potential is so high. But one, they play in a very tough division to not have a good offensive line and to be playing against the Browns defense twice a year and the Ravens defense twice a year, who always plays them good. They don't have an offensive line. And if the Steelers, their secondary is not that good either, granted. So they're playing against these top teams. If they're getting in a shootout, they're not running the ball. Najee Harris isn't getting a handoff. They're going to be trying to throw the ball.
Well, but if you're going to argue my breakouts like you have, I'll go ahead and rip yours real quick just to do it. No, because you've been doing it. Jerry Jeudy has a horrible quarterback. DAndre Swift is on a team that hasn't supported 1,000-yard rusher since Barry Sanders. And Robert Woods is with a quarterback that only does good in the fourth quarter. That's all I have to say.
Enough said. Going back to Jerry Jeudy, I was right. He had 116 targets last year, about 850 yards and 3 touchdowns, which ain't bad. That's as a rookie. That's not bad. But no, I mean, I like the Najee Harris pick. I can see the potential is definitely there. He could see 300 touches this year total. I definitely think the potential is there. I'm just not a fan of Najee Harris, and I've been saying that since day one before we even made this video. I've been saying that.
Not a lot of teams give the ball to their one running back. In fact, barely any do. The Steelers will, and that's going to put Najee Harris above the rest. But now it's time to get into the bust.
My first bust, Josh Jacobs.
I can see it. He's been a bust for the past couple years, and people are still supporting him.
I wouldn't say he's been a bust. He's very. I actually took notes on this. He's extremely inconsistent. I think that them bringing in Kenyon Drake kind of says something as well, that they're not entirely sold on him as their sole running back. When you're paying your backup running back $7 million a year, and it's the year so Josh Jacobs is supposed to be a top running back. I don't think he'll be as involved in the passing game with Kenyon Drake in as he's been before. I mean, we saw it last year. He wasn't that involved in the passing game. Their offensive line got a lot worse. They traded Gabe Jackson. They traded Rodney Hudson. They traded Trent Brown. And they didn't really address him much. Sure, they got Alex Leatherwood, one of my favorite tackles in the class. But they don't have much outside of him, really. A young left tackle and Richie Incognito, who's 100 years old. Not a good situation. And like I said, they bought in Kenyon Drake. He's not in a good offensive line situation, and I don't think the Raiders are going to be very good this year. Josh Jacobs, he's seen a consistent decrease in production and numbers. He's had battled some injuries, sure. You can't blame someone for injuries, they happen. But I just think Josh Jacobs, I'm not touching him at all in fantasy this year, along with this next guy you're about to say.
The next guy I'm about to say is Miles Sanders. As a Cowboys fan, that makes me very happy to say. But the Eagles, they made it pretty clear that they don't love the man.
Nope.
They brought in Kerryon Johnson. They have Boston Scott. They also brought in Jordan Howard, right?
Yeah, they bought Jordan Howard back, and they drafted
Kenneth
the guy
Gainwell
from Memphis, Kenneth Gainwell.
In what, the third round? Something like that? Sixth round?
It was early. I think it was the third round.
Yeah, so they're obviously not very happy in Miles Sanders. I mean, Miles Sanders is a guy who he put up better numbers than Saquon in college, and he is getting compared to Christian McCaffrey, and he is a bust. He's been all right, I would say. He hasn't been great, and you can blame that on the offensive line who's always hurt. You can blame that on the receiving core that's still not there. You can blame it on the quarterback that we're still not sure of, or you can blame it on how they're always behind, which they still will be. the situation sucks. Miles Sanders, he might be good, he might not be, but the situation still sucks. And they're sending a clear message that he could potentially lose a lot of touches this year, and I could see it happening.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. As a running back, it's not good to see your team bringing in 2 free agent running backs and drafting a running back in as early as the 3rd round when you have other extreme pressing needs such as linebacker, which hadn't been addressed. They addressed receiver, they needed offensive line, they needed, and then running back, which they didn't need at all. When there was other,
that's not what they think.
I mean, I guess, but yeah, I 100% agree with what you said. I mean, me saying the reasons why I would just be repeating you. So I'm going to move on to my final sleeper. I don't know if you're going to like this one, and I don't know if a lot of people will. David Montgomery. Final bust. David Montgomery is the final bust of mine. David Montgomery, he won people a lot of leagues last year. At the end of the season, he really came around. I think that he is going to start to regress a lot this year. Tariq Cohen got an extension last year. Then 2 years ago, tore his ACL last year. He's coming back. They also bought in Damian Williams, a guy who opted out for the Chiefs last year, but 2 years ago was arguably the MVP of the Super Bowl.
Oklahoma guy.
Boomer Sooner. I think that David Montgomery. I keep mixing his name up. I keep wanting to say
Ty.
I keep wanting to say Ty Montgomery.
Ty.
Yes. But it's David Montgomery for the Bears. I don't think he'll see as much touches this year with Tariq Cohen and Damian Williams there. I mean, sure, he can be their power back, but I mean, as an aspect of being a all-purpose down running back, I mean, Tariq Cohen and Damian Williams kind of take that away. It's kind of a crowded running back room for a guy who we're looking to see go in like the 4th, 5th round for fantasy. And also, I think that Chicago is going to be passing the ball a lot this year. I mean, especially when Justin Fields comes on, they have Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet. I just think that David Montgomery, I don't think he's in for that good of a year, and I think he's going to start to see a lot less touches, and I think he's going to start to regress a little bit from where he finished off last year.
I don't see that. I think David Montgomery is, the clear talent on his team. I could be wrong, but there was times where Tariq Cohen and David Montgomery on the field at the same time. I don't really see Damian Williams making a real, push, but, I could see the vision. He could definitely lose targets, and that's huge for fantasy running backs. But I'll go ahead and jump to my next bust, who could potentially lose not only targets, he could lose his whole entire job, and that's Melvin Gordon.
Yes.
He could be facing suspension. They drafted a running back in Javonte. They
traded up to the 3rd pick in the 2nd round.
To get Javonte Williams out of North Carolina. And they're making a clear plan, and, it's coming. Not sure when it's coming, but it's coming. And if Javonte Williams, he hits the ground running, I could definitely see Melvin Gordon losing his job. Melvin Gordon's not good. He's never been good. He wasn't good in the Chargers. He's never been a good running back. He's like a 3 yards a carry guy. I don't think he had 1,000 yards last year. He's not very good. It's Javonte Williams' time, and I think he could potentially be a league winner coming down the stretch. He's going in around the 7th, 8th round, and if you're in a home league, I doubt he goes, in the 7th or 8th round, because these guys, they don't know about him. Definitely scoop him up if you can. If you have space on your team, hold him. He will take the job eventually. I don't believe in Melvin Gordon one bit.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, if Melvin Gordon gets suspended, you might as well just take him off your team, because he'll be running back 2 on the team, maybe 3. Royce Freeman does good as their back. Actually, I think he went to the Dolphins.
I'm not sure, but the Broncos have tried to bring in a lot of running backs, and it hasn't really been working for him.
But yeah, you trade up to the 35th overall pick in the draft to draft a running back. Not as good if you're a running back 1. I agree with what you said. I'm not going to repeat you, but if he gets suspended, Melvin Gordon was probably a waste of a pick. I didn't touch him last year, and I won't touch him again. Nope, I don't care where I'm at. I'll reach on a player before I touch Melvin Gordon. He's not in a good situation. Neither is any of our busts, honestly. Jay, I don't have anything else. You?
Nope. That's going to wrap up this exclusive segment. If you didn't see the one that came out yesterday, the mock draft, be sure to check it out. We did a team together. Also, be sure to check out the podcast where we touched on, Oklahoma joining the SEC and all the NBA news.
Oklahoma's going to go run the SEC. Enough said. I'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Peace.